The low rumble of engines echo across the highway like distant thunder rolling in. A group of bikers cuts through the wind. Denim jackets, grim faces, and a fire-breathing giant stitched across their backs. These aren't your weekend riders. These are the Pagans Motorcycle Club, an outlaw brotherhood whose name has become synonymous with violence, rebellion, and control. In the underworld of motorcycle gangs, they don't just ride, they dominate. To some, they're gangsters. To others, they're soldiers without a nation. But to the men who wear the patch, they're family, a tribe forged by loyalty, fire, and the open road. The Pagan story begins in 1959, far from the chaos they would later become known for. In the suburban sprawl of Prince George's County, Maryland, a few working-class men came together for a simple reason. They loved motorcycles. These weren't criminals. Not yet. They were machinists, factory workers, mechanics. Blue-collar men looking for escape, brotherhood, and freedom. There were no secret handshakes, no drug deals, just the roar of engines and the open road ahead. But America was changing. The 1960s brought rebellion, war, counterculture, and something darker. The Pagans, like many others, got swept up in that wave. What started as weekend rides quickly evolved into something far more dangerous. By the late 60s and early 70s, the Pagans were no longer just motorcycle enthusiasts. They had begun building a name and an empire. Chapters opened across the East Coast, from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, down through Virginia and the Carolinas. Their members weren't just bikers anymore. Ex-convicts, combat veterans, and street hustlers joined the ranks, bringing with them a different mentality, power through violence. They began controlling territory, collecting dues, and stepping into the shadows of the black market. Drugs flowed in, guns followed. Soon, the club wasn't just about freedom, it was about fear. While many biker gangs favor flashy vests or polished chrome bikes, the Pagans remain intentionally understated. Dark denim vests, often worn sleeveless, give them a grim, rugged look. But it's the patch on their back that sets them apart. Surtur, a giant from Norse mythology engulfed in flames, holding a flaming sword, signaling destruction. That image isn't chosen at random. It tells a story of chaos, of domination, of fire that burns everything in its path. Wearing that patch isn't just about status, it's a warning. One that says, we are not your friends, we are not your saviors, we are the storm. Becoming a pagan isn't like joining a club, it's like being forged in a furnace. First, you're a hangaround, an outsider trying to earn favor. You clean bikes, fetch beers, follow orders. Then if they see something in you, courage, obedience, maybe violence, you become a prospect. This is where the real test begins. As a prospect, you do whatever the club demands. Surveillance, drug runs, fights, even hits. It's a time of humiliation and risk, and not everyone survives. But if you do, if you bleed for them, stand your ground and take the hits, then, and only then, you earn your patch. You're now a full patch pagan. That patch becomes your skin. That club becomes your family. And your life, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the brotherhood. The FBI doesn't call the Pagans a top-tier threat for nothing. Over the decades, law enforcement has tied the club to a wide range of criminal activities. They've been caught trafficking methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, often transporting across states using motorcycles and trucks. Weapons smuggling is routine, from illegal firearms to explosives. They've extorted businesses, run underground gambling rings, and engaged in murder for hire. But perhaps most terrifying is their reputation for brutality. When the Pagans retaliate, it's not just a fight, it's a message. Beatings, stabbings, and shootings aren't rare. They're policy. No story about the Pagans is complete without mentioning their most notorious enemy, the Hells Angels. Their feud has lasted decades and spans the entire eastern seaboard. What started as a battle for territory became personal. Their wars have left bodies on the ground and towns in fear. There have been massive brawls at biker rallies, drive-by shootings, even public assassinations. In the 2000s, their attempts to move deeper into New Jersey sparked a bloody series of street battles with the Angels. These weren't movie scenes. They were real. And they terrified cities from Philadelphia to Atlantic City. Internally, the Pagans run like a military unit. Every chapter is led by a president, supported by a vice president, and policed by sergeants at arms. Members follow orders or face harsh consequences. All chapters answer to a single man, the national president, a figure both revered and feared within the organization. They meet regularly in what they call church, a formal gathering where decisions are made, punishments are handed down, and operations are planned. Outsiders never see what happens inside, and those who talk don't live long enough to regret it. Over the years, the Pagans have become a top priority for federal agencies. From the ATF to the DEA, from the FBI to local SWAT teams, countless operations have targeted their leadership in clubhouses. Massive raids have uncovered drug labs, weapon stockpiles, and even kill lists. Every time a chapter of the Pagans is brought down, every time a clubhouse is raided or a president arrested, it never feels like the end. It feels like a pause. Because for everyone that falls, another rises. It's like trying to fight smoke with a knife. You can cut it, swing through it, attack it from every angle, but you never truly hold it. That's the danger of the Pagans. They don't rely on a single city or a single leader. Their structure is fluid, their chapters decentralized, their leadership secretive. And that's not by accident, it's by design. When one flame dies, another is already burning somewhere else, and the fire spreads. What's perhaps most shocking isn't how they've survived, but how they've grown. Despite decades of law enforcement pressure, from FBI surveillance to DEA crackdowns, from SWAT raids to federal indictments, the Pagans aren't fading, they're multiplying. Reports indicate that in just the last decade, their numbers have doubled. That's not just expansion, that's momentum. New chapters are emerging in places that never used to see the Pagan patch. Ohio, South Carolina, Kentucky, even reaching as far as Puerto Rico. These aren't just random locations. They're strategic outposts, hubs for smuggling, trafficking, and recruitment. And they signal something big. The Pagans don't just want territory, they want presence. They're not content being regional outlaws anymore. They're pushing toward becoming a national force, one that can challenge the legacy and size of the Hells Angels and other outlaw motorcycle empires. And they're doing it quietly, aggressively, and deliberately. So with all this risk, constant surveillance, the threat of prison, even death, why do men still join? That answer is layered. For some, it's about identity. In a world where connection is often reduced to screens and status updates, the club offers something ancient: belonging, a tribe, a family that backs you with muscle, silence, and blood. For others, it's about power, not the kind that comes with a title or a paycheck, but the kind that comes with fear. When you wear that patch, you don't ask for respect, you take it. And then there are those drawn by the romance of it all, the myth of the outlaw, the road, the machine, the wind in your face, and the law in your mirror. That raw, unfiltered feeling of being untouchable, of living outside the lines, of not giving a damn. Pop culture has turned that image into fantasy. Sons of Anarchy, Pagans MC, countless documentaries and films. They've painted outlaw bikers as tragic anti-heroes, damaged men with their own code. And while those stories are compelling, they're also dangerous. Because the truth, it's not scripted, it's not glamorous, it's not entertainment. In real life, people bleed. Families are torn apart. Innocents get caught in the crossfire. The violence isn't choreographed. The consequences don't roll credits. The lines between freedom and criminality blur until you can't see where one ends and the other begins. The Pagans aren't just characters in a story. They're a living, breathing criminal machine. One that's still expanding, still fighting, still riding. A force that adapts, recruits, and survives, no matter how many headlines scream their name. In the end, they ride for brotherhood. They ride for power. They ride to protect a legacy written in fire, forged in steel, and soaked in fear. They are the Pagans Motorcycle Club, and they're not done yet.